You are listening to Mind Over Me, the mental wellness podcast with me, Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist and someone who is very mindful and aware of the decline in our collective mental health. I created this podcast so that we could have more direct and honest conversations about difficult topics and difficult issues. It's my goal to have honest but direct conversations that we need to have that are necessary. It's also my goal to give my listeners the information that they need in order to find their own mental health and mental wellness. This is where you will find the information that you need to be your own healer. And of course, all of this is based on years of clinical experience and expertise. Thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. All right, my friends, welcome to the next installment. This, of course, is Mind Over Me. My name's Scott. If you're new here, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Hope everybody is hanging in there. I know we are just faced with an endless barrage of mental health challenges and not the correct or right or helpful information that helps people actually successfully navigate it or solve it, which is what we're trying to accomplish here on this podcast. So I hope that you will tune in and subscribe and follow and tell all your friends. This is going to be another episode of some of the crazy, strange, messed up, and even spooky things that go on in your head, because really, the more I get to know and understand psychology and thoughts, behavior, all that stuff, honestly, the more I realize that it's strange. It's just a weird thing. The human psyche, human emotions, kind of spooky sometimes, really. Kind of scary and kind of spooky. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that today, because we're going to talk about what I can best describe as the gremlin in your head, especially as it relates to anxiety. So we're going to talk about, one of the best ways I have to describe it is to talk about it as though there is like a separate entity or like a person inside of your head. I know that sounds strange. I've talked about this in previous episodes. If you're new here and you're like, what are you talking about? What is going on here? You may want to go listen to some of my previous episodes, like on shattered minds and some of the tricks that your mind plays on you and stuff like that. I'm just trying to piece together this strange little puzzle that is the human psyche. As I've mentioned before in previous episodes, it's weird and very strange and a little spooky, a little scary, a little crazy that our minds have a tendency to turn on us the way that they do. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. Because it does, right? All of our minds turn on us. They just do. Our minds do crazy things, and most of us, the vast majority of us, become our own worst enemy as we go into adulthood. And so, every adult has a responsibility to tackle all of this and get it sorted out. You need to get your mind sorted out. You have a responsibility to do so. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody is going to fix it for you. There's no medication that you can take. I mean, the trust that people have in psychiatric medication, and they think that if you just take these pills, it's just going to fix everything, and it never does, and it never works. And how over-medicated people are. We are. We are a society that is so heavily medicated. We take psychiatric medications, and we're still in total shambles. I think we need to stop putting so much trust into the medication aspects of it. It's not solving the problem. And maybe in some cases medication can be helpful. It can help assist you in the process, but the answer, the key is you. You are the solution. You're the solution. I know people resist that. You just have to understand there is nothing that can take better care of you or get you sorted out as well as you can, or as effectively as you can. Nobody's going to care about your mental health as much as you're going to care about it. Nobody's going to take better care of it as well as you can take care of it. Nobody's going to be able to help you as well as you can help yourself. But what I've noticed over the years is that, like, when our minds turn on us, it's as though there's like this separate person living inside of our heads, almost like it's a ghost. I'm just going to call it a ghost or something. It's a troublemaker, like it's a trickster. It tricks us. It puts all kinds of lies into our heads. It tells us a whole bunch of things that are not true. And I'm going to get into that specific element in this episode. We're going to kind of pull that particular element apart, which is specifically like believing or buying into listening to fake scenarios and feeding into fake scenarios in our head. One of the most useful ways that I have found to help my clients get their mental health sorted out is to imagine that there is like just this thing in their head, like a ghost, like an entity, like a gremlin, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use these terms kind of interchangeably. It's like your enemy. It's your adversary. It's working against you. It's the villain in your story, more so than anybody or anything else. This fucking crazy shit adversary in your head is your true enemy. Part of what it's done, part of the trick that it's convinced you of, or the lie that it's convinced you of, is that it's your friend and it's there to help you. And so with people, when they are thoroughly convinced that all of the nasty thoughts and feelings that they have in their heads, whether they're mean towards them or causing a ton of anxiety, are there to help them. That's part of the trick. That's part of the deception that this thing, why would your own, seriously, think about this. Why would your own mind deceive you this way? Why would your own mind trap you into a sense of smallness or fear or limitation in your life, and then convince you that it was helping you, that it was doing you a favor, when in fact it's harming you, when in fact it's doing a tremendous disservice to you? Why would your mind do that? It's so bizarre to me. And a big part of finding mental wellness is to get ahead of that trickster in your head. And I'm speaking from a lot of experience here, not only as a clinician that helps people with this every day and educating people about this trickster. I'm just going to call it the trickster for now. This trickster in your head, this separate being that is a trickster in your head. So I have found when I can help educate people about this trickster, build their awareness around this trickster, and so forth, that they do better. Like when they can really create a lot of clarity around its tactics and its tricks and its lies, they just do better. It's like things open up. Like they just become more awake, so to speak. You want to be able to notice and recognize when this trickster is jumping in, is working to trick you, is lying to you, is telling you lies. Now, anxiety is the number one, is really like one of the most effective and yet loudest tricks, right? The thing is with anxiety, it's actually very, very effective. Again, I think of this trickster as like it's deliberately working against you. Anxiety serves no purpose. Anxiety does not help you, okay? And this is the number one myth, by the way, that people believe about their anxiety. I mean, I hear that it's so bizarre because it's not like there's an educational seminar that we all attended that said, hey, everybody, your anxiety is helping you be prepared. So if anybody asks if anxiety is doing anything for you, be sure to tell them it's helping me be prepared. And yet that doesn't happen. Yet collectively, universally, for some strange reason, when I ask people if anxiety is doing anything good for them, almost without fail, they say the exact same fucking thing, and that is, it's helping me be prepared. Frankly, it's spooky to me that everybody would say the same thing. It's not like we all sat down and had this conversation about it. It's not that we all sat down and agreed on it. So why have so many people bought into this lie that anxiety is somehow helping them be prepared? It's not, by the way. People fight me on this. It is like, oh, it's helping me be prepared. No, it's not. Here's the example I use. If in 1 week, you knew that two guys were going to kick in your door, they're going to threaten you, threaten your family, steal your stuff, hurt people, would you do something about it, or would you sit around and worry about it? Because if you sit around and worry about it, you're going to be zero prepared for it. If you knew that this event was going to happen, you would obviously make real preparations. Anxiety doesn't help you be prepared. Preparation helps you be prepared. Maybe you're doing a presentation at school and you're like, I'm anxious about it. Okay, well, being anxious about it isn't going to help you be more prepared. It's going to cause you to fall apart. It's going to cause you to not perform well. What's going to help you perform well is preparation, practicing it, going over and over again. I can never get a single person to give me an example of how anxiety helps them be prepared for a situation rather than preparedness, more so than preparedness. It's false. Like, try it yourself. If you operate under the pretense that anxiety is helping you be prepared, please give me an example. Chime in, send me an email, whatever, of when anxiety is helping you be prepared more than Sorry, cut it off there. When is anxiety helping you be prepared more than preparation? I dare you. I dare you to give me an example. So when I started treating anxiety as though I've got this little trickster in my mind, it's feeding me constant lies, and learning to recognize when those lies are coming in, because it takes practice. It's hard. Anxiety is very loud, where a lot of people are accustomed to having like an immediate, I need a good snap there. That's a little better. An immediate reactivity to the anxiety versus like being mindful, recognizing when it's popping up and being like, oh, hey, right. And I will often ask people, how many times has your anxiety been correct when it has told you that a certain thing was happening? How often is that thing actually true? And people will recognize, like, never. It's never true. Okay, so your anxiety is a liar, this little trickster, this little gremlin in your head that's not you. Think of it as a separate person than you. Think of it as not you. Okay, it's feeding you garbage. Okay, and if you stop and think about it, about all the garbage that it has fed you over the years, how many times has it been correct and accurate, and how many times has it been very, very helpful to you because of how correct and accurate it's been? Universally, people tell me none, never, zero. It's always false. It's always wrong. My anxiety always convinces me that of things that are not true. So as this episode progresses, by the way, I'm going to give you a couple of tips, tricks, tools, skills that you can use so that you stop listening to this trickster in your head, because it's always lying. It never tells the truth. Okay, every time you listen to it, every time you buy into it, you're actually feeding it. It's like it requires your attention. It's like this entity, this trickster requires your attention. It's almost like it feeds or fuels itself off your attention. When you remove the attention that you give it, it tends to starve and die out. But as long as you're putting a ton of attention into anxiety, anxious thoughts, and all that, you're just going to see it again tomorrow, right? It's not going to go away. Like, it's almost like it demands that, hey, pay attention to me so that you can satisfy this worry. But all you do is just worry some more. It never works. You never satisfy it. It never goes away. Well, that's not true. It does go away. It can go away. But it doesn't go away by doing that. That does not get rid of it. Usually that also makes it worse, okay? But anxiety will also be like, I'm going to use this example because I see it a lot these days. I work with teenagers and young people. Like, it'll be like, you'll feel better if you stay home from school. And maybe temporarily, yes, you'll feel less anxious, but then you're just going to feel more anxious tomorrow. You don't get rid of anxiety by following its commands. It will order you to stay home from school because I get anxious at school. And does that solve the anxiety problem? No, it just gets worse. After that, it's like, then anxiety's like, oh, now that you're not going to school, you should avoid going into public, period, because going into public is bad, and you'll feel better if you don't go into public. And you're like, oh, okay, right? And before you know it, you trim your life down until there's like nothing left. For some reason, anxiety seems to have an agenda to trap us into a life that's small and for us to just stay tiny and stuck in these little itty bitty comfort zones. The more we take orders from it, the more it demands from us, right? So if it tells us to skip school or skip going to work because you're anxious, then tomorrow it's going to tell you to skip your family events or hanging out with your friends or going grocery shopping. The more you give into it, the more it demands to take from you. And again, like seriously, why would your own mind do that? Why would your own mind convince you to take actions that were just going to destroy your life and keep you in a place of severe limitations where you're not living? Because here's the bottom line with anxiety, and here's sort of the point of this episode that I was going to get to. Like, if there's one message that you need to take from this episode, it's this one. Anxiety convinces you that certain things aren't true when they are not true. Anxiety is putting fake scenarios in your head. And anxiety is very loud. It gives you intense emotions. And so those emotions tell you that there's danger when there's not danger. Anxiety will convince you that certain things are dangerous and are going to harm you when in fact those things are not dangerous, nor will they harm you. For example, people judging you. I have so many clients that are just trapped by anxiety. Their lives are being crippled by anxiety, and it's like, you'll feel better if you go work out, for example. Oh, but people will be judging me if they see me exercising. If they see me moving my body, they will judge me. And again, that little trickster in your head is going to convince you that not only is that very, very real, but it is very scary and it is very bad. And it's not. None of that is true. All of that is BS. Even if people were judging you, so what? Their judgments cannot hurt you. That's not a you problem. That's a them problem. You know why they might be judging you, by the way? Because they're listening to that little trickster in their head. That little adversary, that little gremlin. Like, yeah, sure, it's chirping in their ear like, oh, that person over there is weird and you should dislike them because they're whatever. Right? And if they're listening to that little gremlin in their head, man, that's their problem. Right? That's their bad. That's not your problem. But again, anxiety has a way of convincing you that these things are very real and very bad and very dangerous and very harmful to you. Anxiety, in fact, it requires, like, it feeds you fake scenarios. Like, the more I think about this, like, that's really what anxiety is this sense that you should be terribly, terribly worried and terribly distressed over fake scenarios that are not real or extremely exaggerated. So towards the end of this episode, I'm going to give you some exercises, some work to do that's going to help you get ahead of this nasty little voice in your head. If you have a lot of anxiety, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to do these exercises, do these journal prompts, do this work. The more awareness that you build around the whole thing, the better off you're going to be, right? If you have awareness around it, you're going to be able to catch it. You're going to be able to see it coming. I mean, like, for example, right, you build your awareness, right, around, let's say, I've got work on Monday. My anxiety is going to tell me a whole bunch of things about going to work on Monday. What are those things? Okay, so maybe you sit down with your journal and you write down all of the bullshit that your anxiety tells you about work, right? My boss is unhappy with me and I'm going to get fired. My work wasn't good enough and I'm going to get fired. Or maybe this one too. People at work don't like me. They just pretend to like me and they pretend to like me, but behind their back, they're trying to get me fired. Again, fake scenarios. These are not real scenarios. But if you become aware of them, can effectively predict them and anticipate them, you're going to do a million times better. Okay? you're just going to do a million times better. So step one with mental health is always, 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 always build your awareness around that thing. Okay. And part of how we do that is learning to intellectualize things, like take them from the emotional part of your brain into your reasoning and logical part of your brain. I was actually telling an anxious client recently that one of the old school therapy models that I am a big fan of, I was trained in it by my old school supervisor. Randy, wherever you are, thank you. Randy was my intern supervisor, was something else, but I learned so much from him. I learned so much from him. He was harsh. He was hard on us. He was very hard on his interns, but man, I learned a lot from him. But his basis was in cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy is more of an old school style of therapy that just states that, like, use your thinking skills, right? Like, rather than putting too much attention or effort into the emotional side of things, put it all into your thinking part of your brain. Not all the time necessarily. Yeah, I mean, not all the time, but in order to gain perspective on something, in order to build your awareness around it, recontextualize it, or change your perspective on something, taking a cognitive approach can be very, very effective. Your thoughts will always trump your emotions. Okay, like if you have strong emotions and you start using your thinking power, your reasoning power, your cognitive power, and you recontextualize things or learn to tell a different story or talk about it in such a way so that you're intellectualizing it or putting logic to it, it's always going to trump your emotions. Your emotions are going to naturally change. Your anxiety is going to go away. But if you take the time to sit down, it doesn't take long either. Like, you don't have to, it's not a big, long thing. You can do it while you're driving, for crying out loud. Like, sit down and talk it out, right? Like, anxiety also thrives when it can hide in the dark corners of your mind. And when you bring it out, it's like it hits the light and it starts to kind of fizzle out. So if your anxiety is going nuts about a certain thing, if you speak it out loud, it can help to recontextualize it. Sometimes when people say things out loud, because I'll have them do it in session, describe it out loud. Like, get it out there. Tell me what it is. And sometimes as people describe it, I go, well, what do you notice when you say it out loud? And a lot of times people will say, when I say it out loud, it sounds totally ridiculous. Ding, 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 ding. Now we're hitting pay dirt. Now we're starting to hit pay dirt because, like, anxiety paints a fake version of reality. And it's important to realize and remember and be mindful that your anxiety is painting a false reality. When you start intellectualizing some of it, you're going to really see through the illusion. You're going to be like, oh, because, like, when you're only coming from a place of pure emotion, your perspective narrows. Like, it's hard to see through the illusion if you're only using your emotions, only your feelings. So anxiety is just because, again, it's a trickster. Part of the trick that it relies on, or one of the tricks that it relies on, is making it a purely emotional experience. When you drag your thinking skills, your reasoning skills, your logic into it, it loses its power, and it can lose it very quickly. You can go from feeling incredibly anxious to feeling extremely better about it in a relatively short amount of time. So before we finish off this episode, I'm going to, if you're new here, I always do shadow work journal prompts. We're going to do a couple of shadow work journal prompts, but also just like cognitive exercises. A lot of these are the exact same types of homework and exercises that I would give to my therapy clients. And a lot of people who really put some thought and effort into these exercises almost universally come back and say, that really helps. I feel a lot better. These are also things that I've done for myself. As a side note too, I used to have, crippling anxiety. Through my 20s and 30s, I had just crippling anxiety. And I can say at this stage in my life, I'm 47. I just turned 47 a couple months ago. At this stage in my life, like my anxiety's gone. I have no issues or struggles with anxiety. It is like gone, completely gone. And let me tell you, it is a blessed relief. It's like it's just a whole new day, just like a whole new perspective or outlook on life when your anxiety is gone. And I share this because, like, I am living, breathing, walking proof that anxiety can be overcome. Seriously, I've worked very, very, very hard, not only at overcoming my own anxiety, but also like really working to understand it and finding the types of work, the types of therapy, the types of exercises and approaches that actually work, that actually get rid of anxiety. Because I just know how bad it is. I know how crippling it is. I know how debilitating it is and limiting it is. So this first exercise only takes a few minutes. I recommend doing it at the end of the day. You're going to get the most out of it if you do it at the end of the day. Doesn't take long. It can take 5 minutes. It can take 10, however much time you want to put into it. I like to encourage people to, just dedicate 5 minutes to it. But if it ends up leading them down a really positive and important, insightful path, just let it unfold. Just follow it. Follow it where it needs to take you. This type of exercise can be repeated as many times as possible as necessary. As long as it's helping, keep repeating it if needed. Again, step number one is awareness. Build your awareness around it. So become hyper aware of when this trickster is feeding you fake scenarios. Okay, so you're going to want to do this journal question at the end of the day. Okay, sit down and do this journal question. What fake scenarios did my anxiety feed me today? What fake scenarios did I listen to today? What fake scenarios did I pay attention to today? Okay, so start with that exercise. Do it every day, 5 minutes. I promise you're going to get a lot of benefit out of it. The more awareness that you build around your anxiety, the more you're going to be able to get ahead of it. Anxiety only has power over you as long as you believe it, as long as you, right, is going to lie to you. You can either believe those lies or not, and learn to recognize those lies and see them as lies and stop believing those lies. Over time, your anxiety is just going to overall decrease. You're just going to feel a lot better. And over time, you want to see your anxiety as separate from you. I am not my anxiety. Your anxiety is something different. I don't know what it is. It's not you. It's not me. It's not you. It's just something different. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying it's one thing or it's not one. All I'm saying, anxiety, it's something else. I don't know what it is, but it's not you. It's not me. I realize that's vague and probably doesn't make any sense. Whatever. I don't really care. That's just how I see it. All right, let's finish this episode off with a couple of shadow work journal prompts. If you're new here, I like to include shadow work journal prompts with each episode, as I believe in the power of shadow work and just building awareness around our patterns and our psyche so that we can make changes and rewire our psyche. Shadow work to me is the path to mastering ourselves. So each episode, I like to include just a small handful of shadow work journal prompts. I like to encourage people to keep a separate journal just for their shadow work and or therapy work. And I just need to provide a very brief disclaimer. First, I'm a therapist. I'm not your therapist. Please use your own discretion when you're doing these. Generally speaking, my shadow work journal prompts are not for wimps. Mine usually require a high level of accountability. But if you have a lot of trauma, for example, in your past, you may want to work with a therapist, a good therapist, mind you, through this process. Let's do these shadow work journal prompts and wrap this episode up. There's a basketball game that I want to go watch, so it's already tipped off. So let's get to it. Prompt number 1. Do I recognize that not all of my thoughts and feelings are good, helpful, or trustworthy? Has that ever occurred to you before? Yes or no? And what are your thoughts, feelings, or impressions about this notion that not all your emotions and not all your thoughts are accurate or helpful? Number two, how much have I allowed anxiety to rule my life? How much of it have I allowed, or how much influence has it had over my life? Number three, what would my life look like if I did not have issues with anxiety? And finally, what would I do if I did not experience anxiety? What limitations would suddenly be gone? Okay. So these shadow work journal prompts are a little less in depth. I feel like we really did a deep dive today in some of the parts about anxiety. So anyways, let's wrap this up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Go check out my website, saltcitycounseling.com. It'll be in the description below. Be sure to tell a friend. Help me grow my audience. Follow me on X. All that good stuff. Don't forget to follow. And thanks for being here once again. I hope you found this helpful. Good luck with that homework. I think you will find it helpful, so go after it. Thank you for listening. Take care. And remember, you must do hard things.